ตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะ So Tan Ajahn Gong started off by saying, may I ask to pay respects to Tan Ajahn Anan, and also send my regards, my greetings to all of the lay people here, with those joining us in the hall at Wat Mapchan and those joining us at home via Zoom. So today I've got this good opportunity to be able to give this talk, and you have a good opportunity to listen to the Dhamma and hear talk about practice, because there are benefits that arise from listening to the Dhamma, and the Buddha talked about 5 benefits. He said the first is that you get to listen to things that you haven't heard before. The second is that the things that you've heard before but aren't yet clear, they can become more clear, and your understanding of them can grow. The third is that the doubts that one has reduces. The fourth is that one's views become correct views. And the most important of this is the fifth, which is that one's mind becomes bright, radiant. So in the tradition, this practice tradition, Kammatthana tradition, they really emphasize listening to the Dhamma. And Venerable Ajahn Mahabua, he gave this great importance. He said that this is the most important kind of method or posture, is that of sitting, listening to the Dhamma and practicing alongside that. Because through that, our minds become peaceful more easily. So these great masters, they have practiced, they've walked this path already, and then we listen and walk following them. And maybe we'll get some important tips or some important methods that we can use. So just like the Dhamma talk that we listened to this morning from Tan Ajahn Anan, and really what he talks about in every talk is developing mindfulness, the sati, and then sampajanya, this clear awareness. So the meditation masters, they speak about various methods of doing this. And so we listen to those methods, and they talk about the methods that they used, but we need to use them ourselves, to take those in and use them, so that they enter into ourselves, so that we use them for ourselves. And then you also need to use the methods which are right and suitable for our own habits and tendencies. So like a great teacher may speak about different skillful means to develop mindfulness, and then we bring those into ourselves. We talk about having mindfulness during our daily activities. And so like for us at home, and so for all of you right now, practicing at home, and perhaps you're splitting your time between the duties that you need to fulfill and then also time for practice as well. And it's convenient. You don't have to travel to someplace else to do it. Maybe you don't need to take time off work. You can practice right there where you are. So there are many various methods in this practice for the developing of mindfulness and having mindfulness throughout the day with your daily activities. So such as having a mantra or a meditation word and keeping that with the mind. And this is a method of developing samadhi as well. But that samadhi relies upon mindfulness, this sati, as its principle, as its foundation. So we have mindfulness as one thing, the mind as one thing, and the objects of the mind as one thing. So there are these three things there, and wherever we go, we take these three things with us. The Buddha taught about 40 different meditation methods or objects. So like the recollection of the Buddha, the Dhamma, Sangha, reciting Buddha, Dhammo, Sangho. There's Anapanasati, the mindfulness over the breath. There's Devanusati, it's recollection of devas or heavenly beings. There are many of these different means, different methods. Or when we're walking, then we can either recite Buddha with that, or we can just know. So with the left foot falling on the ground, we recite left, or we just know left. And as the right foot touches the ground, then we know right. And we walk in every day, during every day, just as a part of our normal activity anyway. And for those people who are quite old, sitting can be painful, difficult. It's hard to sit, and then getting up is hard as well. There can be a lot of aches and pains there in the body. And when the body is suffering like that, then it's hard for there to be peace in the mind. But if you try walking, as you do every day anyway, then this can help. But normally when we walk, we don't have mindfulness there. But if we walk with this meditation, Buddha, with the left foot Bud, the right foot Do, or we can recite left with the left foot and right with the right foot. So these are the methods that the meditation masters have taught. And what they say is that the mindfulness needs to be with the mind, and the mind needs to be in the present moment. Really, that's the meaning of this, is that to look after our minds so that they stay here in this present moment, so they don't go off thinking about the past, about the future, and they're not suffering over the past or over the future. And so our hearts, our minds, need to try to keep them here in this present moment. But in order to do that, we need to depend upon a meditation object and to keep that meditation object in our minds. So having mindfulness there, managing the mind. So with all of these different methods of meditation that the great masters have taught, really what it comes down to in the end is no other than these three things, which is having mindfulness over our thoughts, being mindful of the posture that we're in, and being mindful of a meditation word or a mantra. So wherever the thoughts go, then we know that. Whatever posture we take up, then we know that. Whatever the mind is reciting, then we know that, we're aware of that. And this keeps our mind here in the present moment. And when the mind is in the present, then it's not thinking, doubting about the past, about the future. Because it's off. If it's off into the past, then it's not in the present. If it's going off into the future, then it's not in the present. So we also can use different means to measure our mindfulness, to measure whether we're able to keep our minds here in the present moment. And so there have been people who have asked these awakened teachers and say that they get the feeling that they just want to stay by themselves. They don't want to be involved with other people. And the answer that they get is that feeling like that is normal. Because these people, when they practice, then they start to gain the feeling and see the drawbacks of the chaos that comes with being with many other people, with being involved with a lot of people, talking with a lot of people. And they feel that being by themselves, that there's more happiness there. So as we then practice, then we need to try to keep a lot of mindfulness with us. Need to try to make that mindfulness quick and agile. And as we do that, as it becomes more frequent, then the suffering that we experience gets less and less. So what it comes down to is trying to keep this mindfulness and trying to make it constant. So Venerable Ajahn Buddhadasa said that this term sati from Pali, what that means is to glide. He also said that we need 3 friends, these 3 qualities with us. So one of those qualities is mindfulness. One is panya, wisdom. And then the other is this combination of sampajanya and samadhi, of this clear awareness and collectedness of mind. So if we have wisdom, but we don't have mindfulness, then we're not able to use that. We don't have that ability to kind of glide, to use that well. We can't keep our minds here in the present moment. So even though there may be much wisdom, but that needs to depend upon mindfulness and also this quality of sampajanya, of this clear awareness. In order to be able to use that wisdom in a way that is appropriate to the various occasions that we meet with during our lives. So having this mindfulness there, having wisdom there, having sampajanya, this clear awareness there. But if we don't have samadhi, if there's no stability or firmness to our minds, then the mind will always be falling over and then getting back up again, falling over and crawling along. So we need these 3 friends, these 3 qualities there with our minds, keeping our minds here in this present moment. Nowadays, for the most part, as people in this world all want the same thing. They all want gain and status and praise and pleasure and power. That everyone wishes for these things. But this is the way of the world. But if we're going to talk about the way of Dhamma, then we try to cut all of those things off and try to just be with ourselves, just stay just with one person, just with this person. But we're also social animals as well. So we need to live in this world too. And when we do that, we should do it with a sense of manner or etiquette. So Ajahn Buddhadasa, he said that we need to know 2 languages. We need to know the language of the world and the language of Dhamma. And only then we'll be able to have happiness. So the language of the world is that of the people of this world, those with defilements. But if we're practicing, then we are focusing, we're cultivating the Dhamma. And so this is the really important one, this Dhamma there within our hearts, that which gives rise to peace and coolness and happiness. So for us, we're people who see the value of these teachings and of this dispensation. We're ones who are trying to establish this mindfulness and grow in this quality of mindfulness. And Ajahn Chah said that he didn't teach very much about samadhi, but what he did teach a lot about was having a lot of mindfulness. And he compared it to being like water, that there are drops of water and there's also a flow or a stream of water. So if it's coming in drops, and then it's there sometimes and it's not there at other times. But if we're going to use that water so that we can have a shower or we can put it to other uses, then we need to have a flow of water, a stream. And how we do that is we steadily open the tap. So we may start off with just a little bit of mindfulness. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And so what do we do to make it constant so that this quality of sampajanya, this clear awareness, arises? So this is important. It's necessary for us to do this, to try and find methods that allow us to make this mindfulness constant. And as practitioners, we need this. We need to keep our meditation object with our minds constantly. Because if we don't have mindfulness, our minds aren't in the present moment. And they'll be suffering about the past, suffering about the future. So like right now, we're listening to the Dhamma, but if we're not mindful, we're hearing the words, but we don't know what they're about. And it's normal for the thoughts in our minds to happen very quickly and to go very far. And for the most part, when we think, then the mind suffers. And that's because we don't have mindfulness there. We don't have this quality of looking after our minds. So we can compare it to like an illness. And we use vaccines to protect ourselves from illnesses. So if the mind doesn't have the Dhamma, then it doesn't have any protection. It's like it's not vaccinated. And so it's important to have this quality. The mind is something that's very important. We need to teach it. We need to train it. So for all of you here, you're ones who have an interest to practice, and that's why you're able to come here. And so this is something that's important and necessary as well. So the question comes up, well, why is it that we need to develop mindfulness? As we listen to the talks of the great teachers, they emphasize this quality and they give us these methods. But we also need to kind of make some adjustments for ourselves as well, because the way that each of us lives our lives, it's different, it's not the same. So we take up these methods that we've heard and we use those which we find easy to put into practice, that are appropriate for us. And so we should focus on ourselves and what is working for us in our own lives. And we shouldn't compare ourselves to others. It's like how some people get nimittas in their practice. They get these visions or images, and other people don't. And Venerable Ajahn Mahabua, he said that for those who do get these nimittas, maybe quite special or kind of elaborate ones, then it's necessary for them to depend upon an awakened teacher. So if we keep our mindfulness constant, have this quality of awareness while we're listening to the Dhamma, then that Dhamma can kind of reach deeply into our hearts. And then we can start seeing the benefits of our practice as well. The results come up, and that gives us more energy, more encouragement. Get this feeling that I can do this. I can make my mind better. I can develop my heart. So we can try to use these different external means to develop mindfulness. It's like at this monastery that, like you at home, take off our sandals or shoes before going into the house. And here we take off our sandals before going into the Dhamma halls. But for the most part, when people take off kind of out in the world, they take off their shoes. There's no order to it. But here we take off our sandals backwards and then go into the hall. It's just like in Japan, the way that people take off their shoes, their sandals, it's in a very orderly fashion. And so we do this in order to develop our mindfulness. And then we know whether we had mindfulness there when we were taking off our shoes, or whether we were just doing it through habit without any awareness there. That when we go into the hall and then we come back out again and we see our sandals, then we know whether we were mindful when we took them off or not. Or another method we can use is drinking water. That when we're thirsty, we pick up a glass to drink. But for the most part, there's no mindfulness there. People just think, and then immediately they lift the glass up without any awareness of what they're doing. But we, as practitioners, should do that slowly. Use the word Buddho as we're picking up the glass. Which really means that the meaning of this is to keep mindfulness there in every posture. Because if we don't have these methods to do that, then it's very difficult. So it's very useful to have some concrete measures to gauge how good our mindfulness is. Because if it's just these abstract or these mental means, then it can be quite hard to be aware of that or to keep those in mind. But if it's something concrete, if it's something physical, then it's easier. So like the awakened teachers, they say that if we're in a hut or if we're in a house, and then we leave our house for whatever reason, but we don't have mindfulness as we're leaving, then we should enter into our home again and then leave with mindfulness. So why do we do these things? We do it to turn the drops of water into a stream of water, and so that we get this clear awareness. And then we kind of are aware with these concrete means. We can know whether we have mindfulness with our activities or not. Because we need to get it to the point that our mindfulness is very quick. It's up to speed with what we're doing. And that's easy to say, but it's something that's difficult to actually do. So what we need to do is depend upon using the activities in our daily life that we do already, and to develop our mindfulness through those. So we do that with drinking water, and with taking off our shoes, and with leaving our house. And then we bring that mindfulness to our observation of the breath as well. And if that's hard for us to do, then we can take some like smelling salts or some kind of herbal oil and put that on our upper lip. And then that can make the awareness of the breath easier, and if it's more distinct then. So all of this is about keeping our mindfulness there, in our daily life, developing our mindfulness. And to get to the point where that's not difficult anymore. And none of these things are beyond our ability. So in the morning, Tan Ajahn Anan, he said that we should make our mindfulness so that it's natural, and caring for our minds in a natural way. And this is one level of samadhi. Even though it may be a small degree of samadhi, our minds, they're not stirred up or agitated. So we use these various methods with the time that we have to practice to develop this mindfulness. And so I give these means to you in this Dhamma talk, the skillful means to develop mindfulness, and you should take them so that they become your skillful means for developing mindfulness, so that they assist you in making your samadhi firm and giving your heart some happiness through that practice of mindfulness. And lastly, I'd like to express the joy that I find in all of you coming together to practice like this.